Hello, and welcome back to the podcast where you are invited for lighthearted conversations about things that matter as you seek to live your most meaningful, beautiful, and joyful life. I'm your host, Dr. Edie Wadsworth, and I hope you enjoy your stay here at the House of Joy. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy you're here today. So happy to be back for another week with you. Today, we are talking all about rewriting your story with two really powerful daily practices. These are things that I teach in Life Mentoring School, things that I talk about all the time. I'm actually in the process of writing a book, dear ones. And this one is all about two of the powerful tools I teach on mindset and emotions. And so as I've been knee deep in the writing of this over the last few weeks, I am so excited to share with you today. So if you know there are parts of your story that you want to rewrite, if you know you have some limiting beliefs, if you know that you're in patterns of like an emotional state that you don't love, you're always feeling discouraged or always feeling disappointed or always feeling sad, this episode could really help you. And I can't wait to dive in. I also wanted to mention that our podcast is ad free right now. And the sponsor of our podcast are both of my programs, Life Mentoring School, which is a monthly coaching program for women where we teach women how to really live in their purpose, unlock their full potential, walk in their God-given callings. And then I also have a life coach certification program through Life Mentoring School, and we will be enrolling for that program in April. So if you are interested in possibly becoming a Christian coach and learning the tools that we teach in the program, just go to ediewadsworthcoaching.com/certification, and we would love to tell you more about that program. All right, so let's dive into today's topic. I know that you guys know that we have rebranded the podcast, and I am doing a lot of episodes with my daughter, Emmy. Are you guys loving those? Thank you for the feedback. The feedback we have gotten has been so, so good. The episodes that I release with her come out on Thursdays. And then on Monday mornings, I come in and give you some encouragement, inspiration for your week. These are normally shorter episodes just to give you that burst of like energy and encouragement to take with you in your week. And this episode is one that is really powerful, and it's really important to me because these are two things. The practices that I'm going to teach you today are two things that have literally changed my life that I still do on a daily basis. So if you think about your life and you think about, maybe you have some goals and dreams for 2024. I hope you do. I hope you've listened to the last few episodes. We've been talking about the new year a lot and talking about setting 90-day goals. So I would love to know if you're watching on YouTube, share in the comments if you already have set some goals or if you're thinking about what you want to create in 2024. And the problem for most people is, how do I go from having these dreams to making that a reality? And part of what you have to be willing to do is rewire your brain, because your brain has like a certain set point. It has a certain way that you have a certain way that you think about yourself. You have a certain way of thinking about what is possible for your life. It's kind of like people talk about having a set point for your weight. Well, your brain also has this kind of set point where depending on just so many factors in your life, how you were raised, your past, the patterns with which you think and experience your own life kind of determine this. And in order to really make change, you have to change that. And that can be difficult. It's basically changing your self-image, changing your self-concept to believe that something different is possible for you and available for you. And the process by which you do that, there's lots of different ways that you can do it. But what I have found is most effective for my clients are these two practices that I'm going to talk about with you today. And I have done this, listen, in seriously almost every area of my life. I have done this when it comes to my past. I have done this when it comes to money. I have done this when it comes to relationships. I've done this when it comes to my business. Over the last couple of years, I've really practiced this, I would say more so with my business than anything else. And also in my relationship with Thomas, because we have, it's been just an interesting and somewhat challenging few years navigating with him through his loss. For those of you who don't know, we adopted, or we're actually in the process of finalizing the adoption, but we took custody of him almost 5 years ago and have just been walking him through all the things that he has been struggling through. And so I would say that over the last couple of years, I've mostly used these tools for those two things, but I have seen just incredible dramatic results in both of those areas in the way I experience my own life by doing this. And I know that it works. And when I was just in my Facebook group this weekend of Life Mentoring School, and I was reading people's wins. We have a post in there every week where they can share their wins. And it's just so heartwarming to see people change their stories, to rewrite old patterns that they never believed they could, to lose weight finally after they believed for years they wouldn't be able to save money and become more abundant in their money mindset after for years having, truly scarce thoughts around money, to doing things that require a lot of courage, like trying to build a business online. We have lots of coaches and people that are in our community that are building businesses online. And that takes a lot of courage, and that takes a rewriting of what you think is possible for you. And I am in the process. I was doing this weekend for my own goals for 2024, because part of what I want to do this year is a lot more writing. And I had been telling myself, like, oh, I just don't know if I still have it in me. I don't know if I can still do that kind of deep work. Most of you know I wrote a book in 2016, and I felt like that book, literally, you guys, took everything inside of me to get out, to market it after it was over. I remember after it came out, it's called All the Pretty Things. And after it came out, I was like, I don't want to ever see any humans again, after I wrote things that were so vulnerable. And I think that it has created this block in my brain of not wanting to write again. But I truly know that's one of my giftings. And I want to, I've spent the last 4 or 5 years creating these amazing tools and studying neuroscience and studying psychology and creating tools that my clients can use to change their lives. And the people who are in my program get to experience that. But I really haven't, in a complete way, like, written it all down. And one of my goals this year is to finally do that, to get it all written down as almost like a legacy. I want my own kids, when I'm gone, I want them to have, like, my thoughts and the hard-earned wisdom that I've gained from the ups and downs and failures of life. I want them to have that too. And but I've had a lot of limiting beliefs around that. So I spent some time this weekend in my journal, kind of writing down, like, okay, what are the thoughts that I've been thinking about writing a book again? And when I think those thoughts, how does it make me feel? And then I was listening to this podcast by, this was so tender, you guys. I don't know if you ever listened to Theo Vaughn, but he's so endearing. I think he grew up as a Christian, and then, kind of left the faith for a long time. He's a comedian, he's really funny, and then has been, I think, slowly coming back to the faith. But the way he shares is so authentic. And I was listening to an interview with him and Tony Robbins, and Theo was talking about how he really struggles with self-worth. And so, as I had been doing my own, like, work that I'm going to tell you in a second on how this relates to, me writing again, as I was doing my own work on that and listening to him, I thought, oh, that's so similar to what I teach my clients and how I teach them to overcome things. But what Tony Robbins told Theo to do was just, on a sheet of paper, and you can do this as you're listening. So you take a sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle, and on the left hand side, write down um, the positive emotions that you feel in a week. So this is not emotions that you almost never feel, but regularly positive emotions that you feel on a regular basis. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to write down the negative emotions that you feel on a regular basis. And the way I often ask my clients to do it is, what percentage of the time do you live in the positive emotions of life? And I'm going to tell you in a second why I think that's really important. But for you, so what would be the percentage of time that you stay, or that you can access positive emotions? And what are they? And then what are the negative emotions? And then what percentage of time do you stay in those negative emotions? And for most of my clients, when they first come to me, by far they are experiencing a lot more negative emotion than positive emotion. And the reason that is really important is because when you think about the fuel that you have for your actual life, it comes from your emotions. I know that we've been taught that feelings don't matter, but I'm here to tell you they do because they fuel your life. And if you can learn how to create the emotions that you want to create, how to build emotional flexibility and emotional wealth and emotional resilience, you will create a much bigger life. You will create a life that feels more meaningful, more adventurous, more exciting, more full of energy to you. Those positive emotions have so much more energy with them. And so when you're experiencing a lot of negative emotion, whether that's sadness or disappointment or rejection or resentment, those emotions have way less energy. They kind of feel heavy, they drag you down. I remember, you guys, for the first 40 years of my life, I just felt like I was carrying around a backpack that weighed like 1,000 pounds. And when I first started doing this work, what I started to notice is like, oh my gosh, I feel light again. Like I feel so much more full of energy when I have ditched those habits of having those negative emotions all the time. Now, if you're in my programs, you know that I don't teach we should never have negative emotions. Of course, we're going to have them. We're human. The point is just not to stay there. And so what I realized is I had this habit of creating a lot of negative emotions by thinking the same limiting thoughts, negative thoughts over and over again. So if you look at your sheet of paper and you look at that negative side, what are the thoughts associated with those emotions? So when I would think about writing a book again, it just felt heavy. It felt like, oh, like I don't want to go through that again. That feels so hard. And I just had a lot of limiting beliefs around it, a lot of negative thoughts around it. Even though, and here's the crazy thing, I've proved that I can do it. I've done it before. So imagine how much heavier those emotions are if it's something you feel like you've never been able to do. And as I was journaling about this weekend, because even though, I mean, I've written quite a bit since I decided I was going to do this, I still find myself falling into like, okay, like I'll have like a few days where the writing comes easy and I'm on cloud nine and it feels like it's flowing. And then a couple of days where I'm like, ah, why is this so hard? And so I was journaling this weekend to kind of help myself over the hump. And as I did that, I realized like I am totally creating this with my own thoughts. And so I just did some journaling. I call it a thought download. Um, so I just did some journaling about how could this be easy? How could this be so enjoyable? How could this like radically change my own life? How could I prove to myself that I can do something like this that requires a lot of focus and is challenging, but also is something that I so love and so enjoy and almost crave to do? And as I was doing that, I got so energized and so excited about working on the project again and writing again. And so those two practices, like deciding or asking yourself, what are the predominant emotions that I'm feeling right now, especially toward a goal that you have? And what are the limiting beliefs that I have about that? And I promise you that as you begin to do this, what will happen is that if you commit to doing this on a daily basis, or at least, multiple times a week, what you will notice is those limiting beliefs will start to let go of you. You don't even have to like by brute strength, like, oh, I'm going to change that thought. And, I'm going to force myself to feel a new emotion. What will happen is that you'll realize you'll have this awareness of like, oh my gosh, I'm making this so much harder for myself than it has to be. And as I've done that, I would say over the last, 6 weeks since I have committed to doing more writing, um, it's less and less and less. Those limiting beliefs are falling away. The negative emotion and the heaviness that I was feeling toward the writing are falling away. And what I notice is that when I am writing, that writing is fueled by these really powerful thoughts. Like one of the things that really helps me is my women need this. they need for me to get this out because this is going to change their life and help them so much. And that really fuels me and gets me going. And the other thought that I think about is like, I imagine one of my daughters picking up this book on emotional resilience and building emotional wealth and how that could just so encourage her and help her in her life, her marriage, her work with her kids. And it has really fueled some amazing writing sessions that have felt easy. I got up the other day and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I think I have another 2,000 words. This is crazy." And that has come from doing it doesn't take very long either. I was kind of timing myself because I'm like, I think we're resistant to doing this because we're like, I don't have time to do this. If I'm going to write, I don't have time to get myself in the right mood for writing, or, I don't have time to do this download. And literally the whole thing, I actually did probably 3 or 4 of them on different topics. The whole thing took me less than 20 minutes. So I would say the part that I did just on book writing or just on writing, I mean, it was less than 5 minutes. So I promise you, you have time to do it, and you actually don't have time not to do it because this emotional state that you're in, a lot of times we're convinced like, "Oh, this emotional state that I'm in right now is just who I am." No, it's just a habit that you keep practicing over and over, and you can rewrite that. You have a story that you're always gonna be overweight. You have a story that you're always gonna struggle with money. You have a story that, you know, you're never gonna be able to build your business. And I promise you that rewriting that story is possible, but you have to put in the reps. It's like going to the gym. I joined a CrossFit gym 6 or 7 years ago, and I didn't, you know, I didn't in the first month or even the first 6 months become fit and strong. I just was willing to put in the reps day after day after week after week after month, and then you wake up one day and go, "Wow, I am really strong. Like this is totally working." But you have to be willing to decide what you want to create first and start practicing that belief. So, whatever it is for you in the coming year, I promise you, you can rewrite your story. You can have a different life 90 days from now. And it's not that hard. I mean, doing those downloads, asking yourself what is the main emotion that you're feeling most of the time and why, and then writing down those thoughts and then deciding, like, okay, how do I want to think about this? What do I want to feel about this? How could this be different? How could it be possible that I could have a different story about myself? It doesn't take that long, but the compound effect of you doing that day after month is profound. I've just watched it happen in my own life, and I've watched it happen in my clients' lives, and it is insane to me how close we are to making true change. Really change your story, change your life. I do 100% believe that. So, I want to know from you today, what is the story you're telling yourself in that area that you want to change? In that area that you've thought, "Oh, in 2024, I would love to create this." What's the story you've been telling yourself, and what do you want that story to be? Because that story, whether you acknowledge it or not, is playing in the background of your mind. So even if I hadn't gotten aware of my thoughts around writing, those thoughts have been at work in my mind, keeping me from doing it, making me feel heavy about it, making me feel like it's not possible again for me. And so you ask yourself, what's the story that I've been telling myself? And how do I want to rewrite that intentionally? And you rewrite it by this daily practice of getting in touch with what are the emotions that are coming up for you that are keeping you stuck, that are keeping you in that same story. And um, how do I want to rewrite that so that I can make true change in this area? It's so possible for you. I can't wait to see what happens when you practice these on a daily basis. This has been one of the most powerful things I've ever done in my life. And I know it seems so simple, but most people aren't doing it. And I have just watched every area of my life one by one by one by one change because I was willing to do this. So, that's what I have for you today, you guys. Listen, if you are finding inspiration in this podcast, we would be so honored if you would follow, subscribe, if you would leave us a review. Those reviews really help other like minded women find this encouraging content that could help them change their lives. And I am so, so grateful for you and how you listen and how you support us. I would so be honored if you would leave us a review, and then make sure that you check out our episodes that come out on Thursday with me and my daughter, Emmy. Those have been so life-giving for me. I think that multi-generational conversation is so important in our day and time, and it has just been so much fun for us to create that content for you. Thank you for visiting the House of Joy. I hope your visit here has been as amazing for you as it has been for me to have you here. Love you so much and can't wait to see you on the next episode. Bye for now.